Good evening and welcome to the November 17th, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of Education. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate on behalf of the board and staff our newly elected board members, Ms. Kat Jones and Ms. Nancy Thomas. We look forward to onboarding you both and swearing you in our December 15th board meeting. So welcome, and we're excited to be working with you. With that, NUSD has opened its boardroom for in-person meeting and will follow the state's and Alameda County's safety guidelines for public gatherings. Please refrain from attending in-person meetings if you have any of the following, if you have any COVID-related symptoms. To observe the board meetings, members of the public may observe the meeting via the NUSD YouTube channel, live transmission on Comcast Channel 26, or in person at the NUSD boardroom. Spanish translation is available via Zoom. In regards to public comment, the public will have the opportunity to address the Board of Education regarding non-agendized matters and agendized items with a live audio-only comment via Zoom with advance notice requested by email at publiccomment@newarkunified.org, a written comment by submitting a speaking card via email at publiccomment@newarkunified.org, or live in-person comments by submitting a speaker card with our executive assistant, Ms. Gutierrez. With that, I call the meeting to order at 6:03 p.m. Roll call, please, Ms. Gutierrez.
Board Member Zhang?
Here.
Board Member Hill?
Here.
Vice President Grindal?
Here.
President Nguyen?
Here.
All present?
Thank you. With that, on to item 2.1, approval of the agenda. May I get a motion to approve the agenda as is? And a second, please.
I move to approve the agenda.
Motion made by Member Zhang,
A second.
seconded by Member Grindel. Please vote.
Four yeas.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. On to closed session. Are there any public comments in closed session items? Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. There are none. In closed session, we will be discussing item 3.2, public employee discipline dismissal release. Item 3.3, conference with labor negotiators, NTA and CSCA. Item 3.4, conference with labor negotiators at NUMA, unrepresented supervisors and contracted management. Item 3.5, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. 3.6, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. And item 3.7, public performance evaluation, the superintendent. So with that, we recess to closed session. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to our November 17th, 2022 regular meeting of the board. We just came back from closed session, and there is nothing to report out. So on to item 5.1, Pledge of Allegiance. Would one of our students from the high school or would like to come up and lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance? Layla, you have been volunteered, Layla. Come on up. Thank you so much. Come to it. Yeah.
Please begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. On to item 6.1, student reports from Bridgepoint High School. Welcome.
Good evening, Superintendent Triplet, board members, and cabinet members. I'm Alexis Blanco Barron. I'm a Bridgepoint junior, but I hope to graduate this June. Crossroad had their school spotlight last month. Thank you for your kind words about Crossroad. During Bridgepoint's first quarter awards, we honored 5 Bridgepoint students and 2 tall students for perfect attendance. 6 students were honored for high credit achievement. 22 Panthers had a 3.0 or higher, including 2 4.0, and all of our tall students made the honor roll with a 3.0 or higher. Bridgepoint is more than halfway done with the second quarter. As you will see in Ms. Caldron's spotlight, Bridgepoint leadership hosted our second annual Halloween Carnival. Our Dia de los Muertos celebration was much bigger. TUP is hosting a Red Ribbon Week this week. We are looking forward to our new Students Wellness Lounge after the break. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. On to our next item, 7.1, School Spotlight, Bridgepoint High School. Dr. Triplett.
Thank you, President Nguyen. Good evening to board members and students, staff, and community. So we're delighted to have Principal Calderon returning to, as the student said, she presented on Crossroads recently, and we're delighted to have her back to present on and spotlight Bridgepoint.
Thank you so much. Yes, I am back. Thank you for having me back again this month to talk about Bridgepoint High School, which is our continuation high school for New York Unified. And our mission and vision is that we are going to provide a safe, supportive learning environment where all students are supported and challenged, and we are the Panthers. So the first thing I want to talk about is our enrollment, which fortunately is a little bit higher than it was at this point last year when I did this presentation to you. So as of November 8th, we have 77 students. I can actually say that we have 78, but that was as of this week. And the majority of them are young men. So we have 25 female students and 53 young men at our campus. As you can see from the following grade level breakdowns, we are a very senior heavy campus. So we only have 1 sophomore, 15 11th graders, and 47 12th grade students, as well as our 14 young adults in our TAL program, soon to be 15 young adults after the Thanksgiving break. So just these numbers are always interesting to look at because they kind of let us know what our patterns of enrollment and transfer. And so, as always, I always share that we have plenty of room for sophomores and juniors. We love our seniors, but of course, they can transition back to New York Memorial if they get to us sooner. So I want to talk about data. And as an alternative education site, sometimes traditional data doesn't tell the whole story. We've been in comprehensive support and intervention for 3 years now due to our graduation rate. So I want to be transparent about the fact that we know that this is absolutely an area of growth. But what I wanted to share tonight is that we are on the upswing. So as you can see, in 1920, if you look on the dashboard, we were at about 45% graduation rate. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, this took a very dramatic downturn, and we were at approximately 14%. Dismal, I know, but Thanks to legislation and, of course, the support of our district, we were able to keep our students back for many for a fifth year, which then led to last year's, and this is internal data, this isn't on the dashboard quite yet, we're now at close to 54% graduation rate. And so while this doesn't compare to the graduation rate at comprehensive high schools, it's a victory because we were at 14% graduation rate and now we're at 54. What I want to share about those seniors, the 52 eligible seniors from the class of 2022, they didn't all graduate from Bridgepoint. 2 of them were able to transition back to Newark Memorial and get their diplomas there. 1 decided to go to Crossroads and graduate from Crossroads, and of course our 25 Bridgepoint graduates. We also had 3 students who decided upon becoming adults to leave us and go to my other school, Newark Adult Education, where 2 of them graduated with their Newark Adult Education diploma, and 1 young man chose to receive his GED through our programming there. So these are all positive outcomes. True, they're not traditional outcomes, but for these students, many of whom are not only going to be first-generation college students, but first-generation high school graduates, these are great, important outcomes. We also look at survey data. You know, we are fortunately to be fully accredited through WASC. So every year we look at what our students and parents are saying about their experience at Bridgepoint. There were a number of questions on this survey. I didn't want to, you know, this is a short presentation, so I didn't want to talk for too long about this, but I did want to highlight a few things that make Bridgepoint unique. This is a question, my school helps me to succeed, and you know, the majority of our respondents either agree or strongly agree that this is the right placement for them to be successful in achieving their goal of getting their diploma. Another one that I pulled is, you know, you often hear that about our small size, and our small size is absolutely a benefit to students. They get a lot more individualized attention and a lot more support. And so this is also positive data, students strongly agreeing that their students are available to all students in all classes. So Academics in Action, I was happy to host our principals, I think just last week, and they were able to see learning in action. So some of these photos are from that same day. So our focus, of course, as you know, is credit recovery. We are a continuation high school, and so we want to make sure that our students achieve that outcome of graduating. And we're lucky to partner with MVROP to offer business and professional development as an elective. One of the things that's unique and part of our WASC action plan is that we offer a weekly advisory on our Wednesday minimum day. In that advisory, we spend a lot of time reviewing transcripts, teaching students how to read those, and also going over their individualized learning plans. We bring in college and career speakers from Ohlone, from various trade schools and unions, and so we talk about those kind of college career topics. And we are also lucky to have on campus our clinicians, both in substance use and mental health, as well as we're going to be having a new partnership with SAVE, which does work against domestic violence, and they will be leading month-long mental health workshops in the coming months, which we're really excited about. Some of the pictures there in that top right corner, you see folks working on kind of individual work. That's from our strategies and support class, where our resource students can get additional support, one-on-one support in their various core classes. And that bottom right picture was our resource fair, which was hosted in our advisory last spring in conjunction with MVROP. And so they brought in various resources as well as schools and unions to talk to our students. And that included our tall students. That's always important to us that our tall folks are part of all of our activities as much as possible. So student voice is something that we've been focusing on for the past few years. You know, so this year in senior English, English 4, our teacher, you know, we always try to encourage student choice, but this year she did something different in which she wanted the students to decide what were going to be the next units of study. And so they opted to work in small groups versus a traditional approach with direct instruction. So they wanted to choose literature circles, which they did for the first part of the quarter, and then they voted for literature circles again. And so we have 2 young people explaining why that works better for them. I hope I can get this right, because I think I messed this up last time.
Hello, today we'll be talking about reading groups and how they are helpful meaningful to me. Working in groups gives us the opportunity to practice our communication skills and understanding certain concepts. Our teacher provides us with various options like Lovely Bones, for example, one of the best novels I've actually read. In my group, there were 3 members, Juan, Kenneth, and Sahil. We all worked and practiced our strategies for this topic. It was hard, but we got through it, which is why I think reading groups are helpful, not just for communication skills, but for life strategies.
These are 3 examples of what literature groups can provide for students. First, working with different people in various groups. Second, working in a group allows us to help each other understand the book and the reading concepts better. Finally, the ideas that have been shared with the group helps us with our sketch notes of our elements.
So it's just nice to see the students working in small groups to get through works of literature. And as the young lady said, for many of them, it's the first time they've gotten through a novel on their own, and that's exciting. There you go. So like many of our sister schools, climate and culture is something that we've been focusing on with our instructional leadership teams, but it's something that I always kind of share at this yearly report, that it's something that I'm very proud of. It's something that we do really well, right? So if you are lucky enough to come visit my campus, you'll kind of really get a sense of family, and that continues to be something that we have been able to sustain over the years. So yes, the instructional leadership team planned, week-long and month-long activities to kind of get the climate and culture started this school year. We've expanded our PBIS incentives this year, so we're actually now operating a mini student store out of our main office. So my office manager, Mrs. Butler, is quite busy at lunch giving out snacks and drinks to our students, and they can use their blue tickets to do that. And so that's been kind of a positive change. Bridgepoint Leadership exists kind of as a club. Alexis was just here on the podium, and she's one of a group of students who just came to me to say we have to continue having a leadership group. So they're kind of this ad hoc group that works with our TUPE coordinator as well as our veteran teachers to continue those traditions and those activities that are so meaningful for students, like Spirit Week and Dress Up Days and other events. Like I've already mentioned, TUPE, which is Tobacco Use Prevention Education, is really active on our campus. And so every year students get trained. And hopefully now that we're getting some of those restrictions lifted, they are hoping to go to Newark Junior High to do some presentations on what they have learned to educate their peers. We have a very strong cost team that makes sure that we connect our students to our clinicians and other resources. And you've heard from my last presentation that communication goes out via our YouTube channel and the weekly video announcements. And just those are some of the pictures from some of the things that have happened most recently. I think that's Alexis doing some Dia de los Muertos Calavera makeup. She actually did some face painting at the Halloween Carnival this year, so I'm grateful that she shared her artistic talents that way. Down there, it looks like kids are enjoying some tamales and playing loteria. And of course, those are our TUPE peer educators kind of in the final moments of their conference, practicing what they might share with our Newark Junior High students in the near future. And just some more pictures of our annual traditions, of course, the small but mighty team that goes out for Newark Days Parade. And we've already mentioned, Alexis mentioned our annual Halloween Carnival. That's kind of been her brainchild. I didn't believe them when they said that, juniors and seniors would want to participate in a carnival and play games. And for the second year in a row, the cafeteria was busy and excited, and people want to see the costume contest. And so donors provide us with gift cards that we give out to our prize winners. So yes, that's me as a ladybug over there as the MC. And up there in the upper right, our campus monitor, Ms. Pajinas. She's more than a campus monitor. She's in a lot of ways, like a godmother or madrina, and so she was the madrina of the Dia de los Muertos event this year. We had parents donate conchas and tamales, and our students brought in Mexican sodas. So I think I was here at negotiations, but I missed the fiesta, but I hear it was a wonderful afternoon. So thank you. If parents are watching, thank you again so much for your generosity. And of course, you all know that our highlight event is, of course, our alternative education graduation, which many of you have had the privilege of joining us. To the left there is a candid from our very well-known and beloved ceremony of the roses, and I'm not going to do any spoilers. I want you to come so you can witness that yourselves. And of course, for me as the principal, just hamming it up there with some of my graduates, and you can just see the joy on their faces. So thank you so much. Hopefully you will join us. Alexis mentioned the Chill Lounge. Leadership students have been working hard with our Special Projects Office to furnish a lounge where students can kind of take care of their mental health and take a breather. And so there's going to be a ribbon cutting for that on November 30th after our break at noon during our lunchtime. So hopefully you'll come out for that. And of course, I've mentioned this when I presented about Crossroads. Please do join us. It's the first time we're going to have our Alt-Ed graduation on a Saturday, June 3rd at noon. We hope you can be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Calderon. Student Board Member Torres, do you have any comments or questions for Ms. Calderon?
Thank you for preparing this presentation. I really like how you get the students' voices into this presentation and we can hear directly from them. I like also how the visuals and we get a description of the event so we don't just see a picture, we also can feel and know what's going on in these photos, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Student Board Member. Member Zhang? No comments? Member Hill?
Thank you, Ms. Calderon, and it seems like you're creating a great culture at Bridgepoint, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hill. Member Grindal?
Student member Torres stole all my points, so I just want to, he didn't steal them. Anyway, I just want to reiterate, it's a great presentation, and I really appreciate all the work you're doing. And I also really appreciate being able to hear from the students, just in the video. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Grindal. Thank you, Ms. Calderon. And I really do appreciate the fact that you guys are, the climate and culture there is definitely a family-oriented place. You have built an amazing family there for the students, and that goes to your staff, to you, the leadership of, your leadership, the staff's leadership, and building this connection with the students there. I definitely feel it every single time I'm on campus visiting you guys, and then also it really shows during graduation and all the emotions that are there. These students really, really love you and your staff, and it means a lot to all of us that they're thriving there. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry? Oh, yes. Can you please tell us a little bit about the art in the back?
Oh, yes. So you all know that our English teacher doubles as our art teacher, and she's a painter as well. And so these are just some of the pieces that her students have done. For the first time, we have from MVROP, Business and Professional Development. She was having some climate issues, and so rather than turn it into a disciplinary issue, she made it an educational piece. And so she had her students research various social issues and create presentations. So 2 of those posters are from MVROP's Business and Professional Development class as they grappled with, different issues. So yeah, there's some painting, and like I said, the posters from MVROP.
Thank you, Ms. Calderon. On to our next item, 8.1, employee organizations. Ms. Gutierrez, do we have any representatives here tonight? We have our representative from NUMA tonight. Please come on up. Welcome.
Good evening, President Nguyen, Board of Trustees, and Executive Cabinet members. I'm happy to be here this evening representing as the NUMA Vice President. This month, a few of our members have taken advantage of professional learning opportunities to broaden their knowledge and skill set to support the diverse learners, teachers, and staff in our district. We continue to encourage our members to participate in these workshops for professional growth. This week, we had a local community member donate 40 entire Thanksgiving meals to families throughout some of our elementary sites. And so principals, along with the help of their office staff and coordination of services teams, work together to identify families in need this holiday season. And I know our families and school communities are thankful for this generous donation. As we end this week, the NUMA board would like to appreciate the tremendous work and effort of our colleagues and would like to wish everyone a safe and restful break. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And on to item 9.1, public comment on non-agenda items. And before we go on to, before I introduce to you our public comment speaker, I just wanted to acknowledge and congratulate our newly elected board members on behalf of the school board members and staff. Our newly elected members are here with us tonight, Ms. Kat Jones and Ms. Nancy Thomas. We look forward to onboarding you both and swearing you both in on the December 15th meeting, and we're looking forward to working with you all. Thank you. With that, I would like to invite up Ms. Elisa Martinez for public comment on non-agenda item. Welcome, Ms. Martinez.
So just the non-agenda item. Good evening, President Nguyen, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Triplett, and Executive Cabinet. My name is Elisa Martinez. I have 2 children here at the district. And, as we get ready for Thanksgiving break, I just wanted to come here and thank you for your efforts, all of you, in improving not only our physical schools, but also in the level of education and services that you are providing for our students. Those of us who do have kids at the schools know that it's not perfect. We know that. And there's challenges at the junior high, at the high school where my kids go. But we are absolutely confident that you are working really hard to solve those issues and really, bring the level of service that you are providing to our kids to really, deliver at a world-class level. I know that sometimes the world-class statement sounds lofty, but the amount of work that you all are doing really, really shows, and I have a high degree of confidence that we'll inch our way there and get there. So I just wanted to say that, and have a wonderful break with your family.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. On to item 10.1, public comment on agenda items. Our first speaker is Ms. Cindy Parks. Oh, do we have any?
All of them.
Nope, all of them are agendas.
Sorry.
Yeah, they're all agendas.
Okay, I missed them. Sorry.
Do we have any online? No. Okay. Ms. Parks, please come on up. Thank you and welcome.
Good evening. The August 18th and September 2nd, 2021 board meetings contained study sessions on the Apex Credit Recovery Program. This was driven by a number of people who questioned the integrity of the program. During the presentation, Ms. Pierce indicated NUSD administrators would address community concerns. One concern addressed was that the NUSD teacher credential would match the coursework. Yet before you this evening is a ratification of 3 individuals under the additional duties for certificated employees. It is my understanding these individuals will be paid an hourly wage for after-school Apex classes, although the word Apex has been dropped from the description. According to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, only one of those 3 has a teaching credential in the area they are overseeing, and the individual assigned to oversee the Spanish course students has a Pupil Personnel Service Credential, a PPS. The PPS credential is for professionals such as school counselors, school psychologists, school social workers, and child welfare and attendance for the provider. It is not a foreign language Spanish teacher credential. How are we to believe the other assurances that were made concerning the integrity of the Apex Credit Recovery Program? Like proper oversight during testing. Will this be upheld, or will this be circumvented also? Later this evening, when the PAL is to be approved, please seek clarification on how a counselor with a PPS credential can be paid to oversee Spanish APEX, and get assurances from staff all other APEX courses have an NUSD teacher credential that matches their coursework. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parks. Our next speaker, Ms. Jennifer Cirillo, item 15.2, arts, music, and instructional materials. Welcome.
Good evening, Board President Nguyen, board members, Superintendent Triplett, and district staff. My name is Jennifer Cirillo, and I have 2 children in the district, one in the junior high and one in the high school. Tonight, I wanted to speak about an agenda item that I'm very excited to see in support of updating the theater at the Newark Memorial High School. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the cast of Clue, many of whom are here tonight, on their brilliant performances. These students memorized 90 minutes of script and tech cues in order to put on a total of 8 shows over the past 2 weeks. As a parent of one of those actors, and very proud parent, I also want to publicly thank Mr. Ewing for putting all of his time, heart, and soul into directing these students in such a fun show. Another special thanks to Board President Nguyen for spending time on a Sunday to come out to support our students as well. 10 years ago, my daughter performed on that Newark Memorial Theater stage in a dance recital. Flash forward to the current year, where I was able to watch her make her unofficial Broadway debut on the exact same stage in Clue. And when I say the exact same stage, I mean the exact same stage. Because it seems as though very few upgrades have been made during that time, and from what I hear, even before then. I watched from behind the scenes as these amazing students made these outdated accommodations work with Band-Aid solutions in heart. We hope these proposed funds will be able to help bring a much overdue and outdated theater up to date for these students. Not only will this help the students, but also the district, as an upgrade in the theater has the potential of attracting more theater rentals through Facilitron. I urge you to approve these funds tonight for the Newark Memorial Theater, as these upgrades are very overdue and need to happen immediately. And as a side thank you so much for allowing comments on agenda items at the beginning so that we can bring our students. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cirillo. And before we move on to the next speaker, may I please have all the students and the cast and crew of Clue to stand up, please? You all did an amazing job, and it was so fun watching everyone perform and all the crew working cohesively with cast to be able to make everyone in the audience laugh and have a really entertaining time. So congratulations on a wonderful show. Our next speaker, Mr. Grant Ewing. Welcome.
Good evening, all. I believe some of you may know me. My name is Mr. Ewing at the high school, or if you're a very panicked tech student, Ewing. This is my 6th year as the drama and technical theater teacher at Newark Memorial High School, and also my 1st year as the new Visual and Performing Arts Department chair. We just closed our winter production. As you can see, we're all wearing our show shirts. And to be clear, this is about 1/3 of the students in that production who were able to make it out here tonight. It is a growing community, and we are so excited to see where we can take it. I want to take us a little bit farther back than even 10 years and take us back to 1972 when the theater was built. I had the privilege of getting to know Barbara Williams, who was there, who taught at Newark High School, back when the junior high was a high school, and they took shows from a cafeteria to a world-class facility. I took this job because of that facility and what it could be. And fast forwarding to 2010, when I graduated, the Harringtons, a very famous family in this community, had just pulled off the first production of Les Miserables west of the Mississippi in a high school. It was a place that people came to. It was the thing to do, to go see whatever show was happening in the Newark Memorial Theater. 1993, I was born, and I was brand new to the world. So was our lighting and sound and black box and makeup hall and green room and many of the other rooms that had just been recently updated. I have changed a lot since 1993. I've grown a lot, and I've added a lot to myself. I cannot say the same, unfortunately, for our theater. And a few of the items that would need to be improved is, number one, the lighting system, which would be about $250,000 to update into a full LED system that would not only make the theater more functional, more high-tech, more energy efficient, but would also make it safer, cooler, and ultimately save money on not having to buy bulbs that are more expensive than the outdated lighting instruments that are currently there. As well as we would need a full renovation of the makeup hall, a re-flooring of the stage, which has become rather uneven and is currently being repaired by me and other custodial staff who are doing our best to make it safe. But we're not just asking, for upgrades and personal favors. I'm asking you to help me make the theater not only an anchor in this community, but a magnet to families in the Bay Area that want to send their kids to a school with an exceptional theater program like it used to be. And if you are willing to help build me this vessel, I'm more than willing to be your captain. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ewing, and you officially made us all very, very old up here because I graduated in 1993. But hearing you speak, it's very emotional because it brought back a lot of great memories. I'm sure Catherine, Ms. Ingham Waters here would attest to that also, and the Harrington family. So thank you for really mentioning them because they were wonderful in our community and really guided a lot of our students. So yes, if you are, and I really admire you for wanting to be the anchor for these students and to really make our community better and shine. So thank you so much. So with that, our next speaker, Cal Garrett. Welcome.
Thank you. I don't have anything prepared. I'm going to speak from what's inside of me. But I have been a theater educator in the East Bay for about 6 years. I worked at Irvington High School. I've worked at Dublin Unified School District with their state-of-the-art facility, and Irvington sort of in the middle ground. And I've just recently had the privilege of working with Newark Memorial High School and Mr. Ewing. Mr. Ewing is my partner, full disclosure. I really enjoy working with him, and I love him very much. But it's more than just his vivacious passion for the theater that makes me want to work with this program. It's the students that are present and excited to be there. I know that the NUSD vision statement, part of it is to be a model of world-class education, and I think that the facility could be so much more, right? The magic of theater is that the show must go on, and those Band-Aid efforts are part of what keeps you engaged and excited. But if you don't have to do them, if you have the resources at your fingertips to create the thing that you envision, your possibilities are endless. And to be able to give that to a student, to let them know your potential, your possibilities are endless, is the most beautiful thing that I've seen. And I think that Mr. Ewing does that effectively with the resources that he has. But how much more could we give students if they have the ability to, press a button on the lighting system and see their vision come true, versus having to get a scissor lift and readjust the lights every single time we want to do a show? How much more could we do if we had beautiful new black and red curtains that didn't have paint stains on them? How much more of a vision could we create for these students and with these students? How much more could we do if we had the ability to have an even floor and create some really beautiful dances without the worry of tripping? How much more could we do if we allowed these students to reach their full potential by giving the resources that they need to make that happen? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker, Ms. Layla Malakara. Welcome.
I'm just going to start off by introducing myself. I'm Layla Malakara, and I am the current stage manager at Newark Memorial High School for our drama program. And I would like to start by saying that the theater has become a new home for me where I feel safe enough to express myself and do something that I love. And unfortunately, some of the things that we may look forward to doing or are excited to do are restricted because the drama program is not provided with the funding that we need in order to achieve some of the expectations that we set for ourselves. Coming from someone who is behind the curtains at all times, I may notice some things that others may not. Some of the problems that we have come across is, since our mics are so old, we have come across some damages to the mics, causing us to experience more technical difficulties than what we should. As well as our curtains and stage need tremendous work to be done to them, including paint that has damaged the curtains. And this funding that is offered to us will improve our drama program in every way possible. We will be able to make the drama program a more safe environment for our students to feel that we matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Layla. And our last public comment on this agenda item, Ms. Elisa Martinez. Thank you.
I hate to go after all these inspirational. I keep it short. I am here to support the expenditure plan for, of course, all our arts programs, but in particular to our drama department. Our students work so hard, and as I think about, first of all, I just wanted to recognize Layla. Man, if you've been backstage watching her stage manage, man, it is impressive. But, just like we'll call that leadership, if you think about if you watch the actors, if you observe the text, just the level of dedication and the commitment to excellence. It's just so inspirational. And I think about just all the extra time and hours that they would just go meet besides rehearsals to just run their lines. And just because they are that committed. And I was thinking about the week before the first show, and I had asked my daughter how things went, and she said, she's like, oh, not so great. I'm like, oh my God, did people forget their lines? She's like, no, the lights weren't working, or the sound, I forget which one it was. But at the end of the day, what that means is that, they're 2 to 3 days away from opening night, and they can't focus on the things on their own individual performance. They're all working and they're stressing and they're trying to resolve these technical issues. So just to give a flavor of that urgency. And I'm surprised no one mentioned I think there's a story about you guys have a ghost, and that's how you guys explain, that when all of a sudden everything's fine one day and the next day they show up and the lights are done. They're just not working, right? So anyway, I just wanted to share those flavors, those tidbits, because, man, those are the things that get in the way. And we are so excited. Absolutely an excellent leader in Mr. Ewing and in the students. And so let's just help them really get that facility to this 21st century. And I'm really excited about it. So thank you for your support.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Also, I just wanted to also say thank you to the superintendent on opening night. You guys did have some technical difficulties with some lighting, and Ms. Martinez reached out, and Superintendent Triplet was able to get somebody right away. So I just wanted to also thank our staff member who came out and helped you guys put on your show. So. Thank you. Okay, on to item 12, consent agenda item, non-personnel items. Are there any items on the consent agenda that board members would like to pull? Member Hill? I'm sorry, yes. I apologize. We're on item 11, consent agenda personnel items. We will pull 11.3. And then may I get a motion to approve 11.2? Motion made by Member Hill. May I get a second, please? Seconded by Member Zhang. Please vote on board docs.
Four yeas.
Thank you. On to consent agenda, non-personnel items. Are there any items that board members would like to pull? Yes, Member Hill?
Yeah, I'd like to pull agenda items 12.3 through 12.13, please.
Okay, may I get a motion to approve agenda items 12.2 and 12.14 and 12.15?
So moved.
Thank you. May I get a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made by Member Grindel, seconded by Member Zhang. Student Board Member, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Four yeas.
Okay, on to item 13.1, Superintendent Report. Dr. Triplett?
Thank you, President Nguyen. We could put up the slide deck, please. And while we're doing that, I do want to just express another congratulations to the CLU cast and the teachers and everyone who was involved in that. Really, really amazing and super inspiring. So this is the superintendent's report for this evening. Go to the next slide. So first wanted to just do a regular sharing of an enrollment update. So you can see here, roughly monthly, we are sharing out the enrollment numbers as compared to projections. So in our elementary schools, we were projected at 2,243 students. We're currently at 2,269 students as of the 8th of November. It's junior high projected at 1,064. We're currently at 1,045. Memorial, 1,536, and we're currently at 1,519. You see Bridgepoint projection was 61. We're over our numbers there at 76. I did notice that Principal Calderon mentioned 77, so there must have been a student who came in between the time that we pulled these numbers and the end of the day on November 8th. And then Crossroads, we were projected at 161. This is the virtual school, and we're currently at 67. So overall, our numbers are approximately about 70 students below, wait, did I just do that math right? No, no, more like about 90 students below our original projections. These, as I've said before, these numbers do fluctuate, and so we should expect to continue to see those fluctuations throughout the year. We do have students who have transitioned out of our district, and we also have students and families who are transitioning in. Next slide. I wanted to reiterate President Nguyen's congratulations and welcome to our new board members. Our board member-elect Catherine Jones, as well as our board member-elect Nancy Thomas, who are both here in the audience. So welcome to you both. We really look forward to working with you. Wanted to share out a little bit about upcoming board trainings and orientation for all of our board members. So we do have the California School Board Association annual conference coming up. That's an opportunity. Really, they put on a really valuable conference, including trainings for new trustees, in addition to a number of other great trainings and different symposiums. So we've invited all of the board members to attend. I know many board members have elected to attend this upcoming thing at the beginning of December. Likewise, board will recall that earlier the board wanted to also utilize CSBA's online learning center, another really great resource for board training and orientation. So this is not just for our two new board members, but for all board members, myself included as a member of the governance team, really valuable things. And so we look forward to continuing to have these kind of opportunities to grow and learn as a board together. Other updates, you will recall that the elementary school parent-teacher conferences are occurring during this month. They're concluding today, so parents have had families have had a chance to engage with their child's teacher or teachers, and so that's wrapping up right here before our Thanksgiving holiday. And then wanted to close out with an appreciation. Many of you will recognize this gentleman. This is Wahab Salemi, who was a student board member 2 years ago, graduated last year. He has been, since graduating, he has been interning with us. So he came to us at the beginning of the year and was really interested in doing some interning to support the district and to be learning more about policies and things like that. He has just gotten a new job at a law center, I believe. Is that correct, Ms. Gutierrez? Law firm? So he's going to now be, unfortunately, we're going to lose him to a quote-unquote real job. But just wanted to take a moment to really appreciate him, even after graduating, continuing to give back to the district and to the community. He did amazing work this fall in helping to support us as you know, board members, we've been trying to get all of our board policies updated, a gargantuan task. And so he was really instrumental in helping to organize them, categorize them, and get them set up so that we could bring them to the board every board meeting. So just a really hearty appreciation for Mr. Salemi. And that's the report for this evening.
Student Board Member Torres, do you have any comments or questions for the superintendent? Member Zhang, any comments or questions for Member Hill? No. Member Grindel?
No.
I just wanted to also say thank you to Wahab and for coming and interning with us and helping the district out. He was a tremendous student board member, and we were happy to have him be a part of our board. And then to see that he graduated and is doing well and is continuing on his journey. So thank you, Wahab. Okay. On to item 14.1, staff report. Dr. Triplett.
Thank you, President Nguyen. So this is 14.1, connectivity and internet speeds. Student board member Torres brought this up as something they wanted to get an update on the issues and challenges that we've been facing, particularly in the secondary schools with regard to Wi-Fi connectivity, which has been frustratingly slow to almost non-existent in some classrooms. So we wanted to provide an update. We have been able to get the services of a consultant who really has done some amazing work in partnership with our IT team to identify some of the issues, and so we wanted to share that out.
So this evening, we will provide you an update on the status of our connectivity and our Wi-Fi. I will have Mr. Paul Rose, our network manager, and our consultant, Mr. Aaron Perez, to help with this presentation. If you'd like to come up.
Thank you.
We're going to tag team this. So next slide, please. Back in the spring of 2022, we were getting some reports from the high school regarding poor connectivity and concerns with the internet speeds across the campus, on the office computers, the Wi-Fi, and the phone quality were all affected. So our IT department did some investigation, and they discovered that the fiber connection between the high school and the district office was failing. So we worked with AT&T, and they were able to resolve the issue by replacing the fiber circuit with something more robust.
We fast forward to the current school year. We started getting reports of wireless speed issues. So the first thing that came to mind is, oh no, the circuit is having issues again. So we started investigating the circuit, and luckily we found that was not the cause of the issue this time. We found that the hardwired computers in the office as well as phones were not affected, so we were able to rule out the fiber circuit as the cause. We did find that there were sporadic Wi-Fi speeds depending on the day and time. So after reaching out to the vendor, getting some ideas of what to test, we did try making a few changes that only minorly improved the Wi-Fi. So at that point, we did reach out to the wireless consultant and to continue the troubleshooting process. And he will let us know some of the findings that he found after doing some testing with us.
Okay, so we started digging deep into the problem, trying to replicate it, trying to quantify it to see if we could reproduce it, see if it was trackable. And essentially, the higher the density of users, devices, the worse the problem gets. This comes down to a few things. Primarily, wireless spectrum. It's congested, and the system wasn't adequately maintaining that. So their channels were overlapping, one classroom to another, which is causing people to get disconnected. The second problem was the wireless system doesn't allow easily like a management of traffic. So one user connected to an access point could simply take all the bandwidth and leave everybody else with nothing. We tried a couple different things. The first thing that we did was we reduced the channel size, the channel width, so that reduced some of the interference. We started working with the auto cell sizing feature, but that has its own limitations. So essentially, the wireless system that is in place today is kind of the equivalent of like a 3G cellular service. It was really good 5, 6, 7 years ago. Today, more users, more devices, it becomes problematic. That's the basis of the findings. Next slide.
Next slide. So in order to improve the Wi-Fi capabilities, we do need a new wireless system, something more updated, along with the controller. So that means our access points need to be upgraded. Our controller needs to be upgraded so that it can be adjusted to the demands of all the wireless devices in real time. Especially given the increase in the devices that are being used right now. The system that we currently have was installed back in 16, 17, so it's very old. So next steps, Mr. Perez?
So we have a couple of interim solutions we're going to try. We're not entirely certain of what the outcome is going to be. The first one is we're going to try tuning the system better, making sure that it can adjust the cell size properly. And the second thing we'll do is if that works properly, we'll increase the channel width to 80 megahertz, which should increase the bandwidth a little bit. we don't exactly know how much that's going to go. The other thing if that doesn't work and doesn't make things usable, the next solution we would try is capping per user bandwidth, which isn't an optimal solution, but it just ensures that one user, one device can't take all of the bandwidth. So if somebody's iPhone is downloading an update, it doesn't take the whole classroom offline. It would take 4 or 5, 6 users all consuming their maximum bandwidth to do that. That would be probably the stopgap solution. But we think it should get a little bit better with the auto cell sizing, increasing the channel width once the cell sizing is addressed or it's working better. But we do have some limitations on that. The current system doesn't have a dynamic channel width process. So we have to set channel width globally, which is not ideal because in some cases you want it thinner, you want it at 20 megahertz, 40 megahertz. Some you want it wider, 80, 160, and this doesn't allow us to do that. So it's kind of, it's unknown how much we can do with that.
So what we're trying to do now is more of a temporary solution, but for long term, we will begin to design and outline what a new wireless system would look like to meet the district's needs in terms of the bandwidth and long-term growth and the spectrum of our wireless system. The design process would vet and examine our Wi-Fi capable solutions and would also look at what the current limitations are and what we need for our future expansion. So once we develop our criteria, get our design established, we'll be engaging in an RFP process, getting quotes, pricing the system for purchasing equipment, especially the access points and the controller, and also installation. The good thing is the estimated cost just for the access points right now, the high end, considering 2,000 per each access point, we have over 500, maybe over 550. So that alone is about 1.1 million. And then if you add the controllers, again, on the high end, they're about 60,000 each, and we need 2. So we're already up to 1.2 million. The good news is that we have been working with an E-rate consultant over the years, and there's about 928,000 available to us to use towards this project. The E-rate program will cover 60% of the cost up to the 928,000. So, and then the balance would be the district, so it's kind of 60-40, which is a really good deal. And we'll get that process started, and hopefully with the timing and of course the supply chain and all that into consideration, maybe by spring we'll get installation started. With that, I should have had Mr. Perez introduce himself, kind of give you a little bit of background in the beginning. I can give him a minute now so that he's from Caligo Systems, and maybe you can just give a little bit of background, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Sure thing. So I'm Aaron Perez. I'm the chief architect at Caligo Systems. We do kind of tricky things: data centers, security, network design, implementation, management, and things like that. And in this, we came in to troubleshoot the wireless problem, to rule things in or out. Was it the network? Was it infrastructure? Was it device configuration? And only took a couple of days to kind of rule it out to that it's spectrum and it's density. And those things are colliding with a system that lacks a little bit of features. And if you have any questions about any of the stuff we found, I'm happy to answer it.
And Mr. Perez does have a lot of experience with other school districts as well, so he's very familiar with our setup and what the requirements are, with students and teachers and staff.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Perez, and thank you, Ms. Dela Cruz and Mr. Rose for the presentation. Do we have any comments or questions? Student Board Member Torres?
Yeah, so for the interim solutions, I could see that, there's a lot of verbiage that says may increase availability. Is there also any negative effects that we can get from these interim solutions?
So the first interim solution would be to increase the channel width to 80 megahertz, which makes it span 4 channels of data, which increases the bandwidth. But that makes the problem worse if there is overlap or there's channel interference. And so that's what the cell sizing, which the cell sizing is one access point recognizing another one's nearby and changing its channel so they don't overlap. Once that's adequate, or we think it's adequate, increasing it from 40 megahertz to 80 megahertz should increase the bandwidth per access point. If it doesn't, then we revert back to 40 megahertz. So those are the upsides, those are the downsides.
Will this be tested during school hours?
Yeah, we'll be doing different tests. We'll first test it offline to kind of baseline it without interference, without users, which creates congestion on the network and in the spectrum. And if it seems okay, if it doesn't get ugly, then we'll probably, probably let it run for a day or two and start asking around, seeing what everybody's experience is like, if it's better, if it's worse. And there's some tools we have. We can see channel congestion. We can see where the channels overlap. But like I said, the system is a little bit limited on how much we can tune the auto cell sizing. Other systems, maybe even different versions of the same solution, you can tune it based on how high it sees the other signal. And if it sees it this high, then you start automatically tuning it down. This one doesn't really have that. It just you just can check a box and try to make sure that it works. But if it doesn't work, then the next step is probably doing the data caps per user. And 75 megs seems kind of low, but it's kind of high. Most of the access points at the high school have between 10 and 60 users on them. So you want to kind of set it a little bit high because it's not all the users, and it's not even a majority. It's just sporadically several devices, whether it's a Chromebook downloading an update, somebody's iPhone getting an update, that's just consuming all the bandwidth in the room. So if we set it fairly high, we think we can stop some of the connectivity problems where you just hit a page and it doesn't do anything. That's the goal.
Thank you. And I don't know if any of you can explain why we had a blackout at our school today? No? Because everything just went out for a good minute. If we can get an explanation on that.
I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah, power outage, MSU.
I'm pretty sure that has to do with the heating and the
Yeah.
AC being operational for almost a month, and they were able to fix it, at least in the theater.
Woo.
So I'm pretty sure it's connected because after that happened, my heating was magically working again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
thank you.
Long story short, we do have some limitations. If you think about it as a 3G cellular network, we have some limitations on bandwidth and things we can do with it until a Wi-Fi 6 capable system is available.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Member Young?
Just a question for my knowledge that on the high school campus or other secondary campus, is there a list of websites that we actually block on campus for our network? Because I think in this room, I don't think you can access facebook.com. And any other website on high school that are not somehow related to education, but are known to consume disproportionate bandwidth for upload and download. For example, video streaming. Any website that are blocked on campus, or we don't block any website.
Yeah, I don't have a list with me, but yes, we do have a web filter in place that does block, I was about to say inappropriate websites, but we do have a filter in place that blocks certain categories, certain websites. Sites like Facebook, I believe, I'd have to look, I think maybe blocked. YouTube, I don't think is.
Well, I would assume probably when it comes to API consumption, probably ByteDance-related website like TikTok is way more expensive than Facebook today.
Any other comments or questions, Member Zhang? Member Hill?
Thank you, Mr. Perez and Mr. Rose. Regarding the interim solutions, is it possible to differentiate by device type and basically prioritize, or I shouldn't even say prioritize, but is it possible to basically limit access to school-issued devices like Chromebooks and to basically restrict access to personal devices, particularly cell phones? Because I would imagine that if you did that, you would see substantial bandwidth increases.
And Aaron can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe we can by the wireless networks broadcasted, we could make it so that only staff and Chromebooks are allowed to connect, but that would have to be something that was decided by the district, something approved.
Great, thank you.
Member Grindhill? Member Grindell?
Yes, previous members asked questions I was interested in, so I appreciate that. And likewise, in terms of the bandwidth caps, similar to Member Hill's question, and when it comes to the bandwidth caps, can educational equipment like the Chromebooks and particularly the teachers' computer be prioritized in those caps? In other words, could you put a cap on phones and not necessarily on particularly the teachers' equipment?
So the system we have, the bandwidth cap would be per user or per device per SSID. And so the limit is set on the wireless network itself. So there's like NUSD staff, NUSD temporary, and guest. So at the moment, guest is limited to, I think, 20 megabits, I think. And so depending on if all the priority education devices are connected to a standard network, we could increase their caps, and then if student devices or ancillary non-priority devices are connected to another SSID, we could set their cap much lower. So depending on where the device is connected to, that could be one way to differentiate.
And you could have a network that was Chromebooks, for example, that was just pointed at that. And the reason I want to thank staff for bringing this forward, because it is critical. Internet access is no longer a luxury. It is an absolute necessity for education. Prior to COVID, that was already happening, but after we went through that process, at this point, not having internet access, Wi-Fi access at an educational institution is highly problematic. So I appreciate the priority that's being placed on this, and I'm glad there's a 60% match. But I think we need to make this a very high priority, particularly in terms of the educational equipment that the teachers are using and that the students are using to access their assignments on the Chromebooks. And I am troubled that somebody downloading a movie might be throwing 20 or 30 kids off from their path of being educated. So it sounds like you're already on that, so I wanted to stress that. I think that's, well, I guess I have one further question. At what level, I hear that like 5G is like as fast as Wi-Fi. To what extent is, if 5G becomes more implemented in the area, or is it 6 now? I don't know. But will the students be able to use that bandwidth for that system for getting access that's not educational related?
I would think so. So probably the equivalent in Wi-Fi standards is today the network runs what's commonly termed Wi-Fi 5. Mm-hmm. It uses 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz for spectrum. But the way that it kind of allows people to connect and the way that it does the order of operations is not really optimal. And that's why I kind of equivocate it to like 3G cellular signal. Wi-Fi 6 would probably be closer to like 5G for cellular service. So Wi-Fi 6, and then there's a Wi-Fi 6E, which is slightly different. But Wi-Fi 6 uses a technique to add the ability for more users to connect. So instead of waiting in like a linear way for one user is using this piece of spectrum, we have to wait till it's freed up to reuse it. It slices it up, and so that I think it's something like 37 people can use the same channel in the same space without overlapping and without waiting for, first in, first out kind of thing. Wi-Fi 6E has that same capability, but it also triples the number of channels available. So Wi-Fi 4 and 5 has the ability for, I think, 2 channels on 2.4 gigahertz, 24 channels on 5 gigahertz, and Wi-Fi 6E adds 59 channels on 6 gigahertz. So it's, I would think that with Wi-Fi 6, just with the existing spectrum with 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, the capacity would at least triple or quadruple, just based on how the spectrum is able to be used. I think it's called OFDMA. It's kind of complex, and we can go real deep in that, but it's kind of a cool thing. And that's sort of like the difference in like cell signal between 5G and 3G. And this would be the difference in Wi-Fi from current Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi 6.
Thank you. You went a little over my head, but that's you wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't. So I just want to again stress that how important this is, and I appreciate the energy you're putting into it. I think we have to be bold and do what we need to do, whether it's put caps or to limit devices. We need to get for our educators and our students to be able to access educational equipment, and we need to do it like yesterday. So thank you.
Thank you. Just my fellow board members have brought this up, and my question is very similar to theirs. Is there a way for us to be able to identify specific devices that are non-district issued devices? And if so, I know that it's a possibility for us to maybe reset the system to reset the password on the Wi-Fi so that only staff has access to it, and that personal devices that students or staff may be using, they shouldn't be on the school networks. Personally, that's how I feel. Because all of their devices are unlimited data now. So there's no point in them having to connect to our Wi-Fi network to be able to download videos or anything like that. I understand that there may be some concerns, but again, in terms of the short-term solution, so that access to students in the classroom is available, I think that's really important. But like Member Grindel had said, this is really a necessity, and I would really want to have not a really long-term, short-term solution. I want an immediate solution to this problem now for our students, and if that means that we have to, create new policies and stuff like that, I am ready to do that. Thank you.
So with the current system, I'm not sure we could actually differentiate like user by user, device by device. It's kind of like whichever network they're connected to. If they're connected to the staff Wi-Fi, we would presume that would be a high priority device and give it all the bandwidth it needs. If it's connected to guests, you give it less. If it's connected to the other ones, so on and so forth, you prioritize. So it just kind of depends on where the device is actually connected to and what capabilities it has. The existing system, where it uses dynamic pre-shared key, does have some other limitations that it's not quite easy just to write a policy and say they connect this way or that way. If it were using a different type of system, whereas like credential-based, you could write a policy that says when this user connects, they authenticate, and then automatically put them on this network that you've prioritized in a specific way. Current system doesn't have that capability yet, but presuming they're on a network that we prioritize, then if if there's a way to make sure and this is maybe a Paul question, that if all the Chromebooks are on a specific SSID, then you can give them all the bandwidth they need, and then presume the other ones are low priority. But I'm not sure about that limitation.
We do have the ability right now to adjust the wireless network so that only staff and Chromebooks can connect. That would mean doing away with the other two SSIDs,
Yes.
which may have, implications in and of themselves, but it is possible.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I think we don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Rose. Thank you.
Okay, on to new business. Item 15.1, Resolution 2022.23.14, California Schools Healthy Air, Plumbing, and Efficiency CalShape Program. Dr. Triplett?
Thank you, President Nguyen. So we're really excited to be sharing and presenting this resolution for this grant.
I apologize. Is it possible for us to do 15.2 since the students have been waiting for us to approve it all night so they can go? Is it okay?
I would move that we adjust the agenda.
Thank you. Make it a second.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Member Grandel and seconded by Member Torres. Just a roll call vote. Ms. Gutierrez, is that okay? Student Board Member, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
Member Hill?
Yes.
Member Grandel?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. 5 ayes. Okay, we're going to skip over 15.1 for right now. We'll be on 15.2, Arts, Music, and Instructional Material. Dr. Triplett?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm also excited about this one, so that's fine if we skip over the last one. I'm going to have Ms. Cairns come on up to speak and present on this. But just to give a brief summary, so this is a really wonderful opportunity, a grant that focuses on arts, music, and instructional materials. And so this is a one-time grant that we've been really fortunate to get from the state. And so I'll have Ms. Cairns speak more about the details of what we're proposing.
Good evening, everyone. Abby Cairns, Director of Special Projects. Thank you for having me. So I actually want to start with a little bit of a personal story. When I first started teaching, I worked at Oakland School for the Arts. So in my heart, I am primarily think about education from an arts integration perspective. So it's really a deep honor to be able to lift up the arts in this way, and also just very touching to hear all of your stories about the impact that the arts have on your lives. So thank you so much. Okay, so Arts and Music Instructional Materials Block Grant. It is available from this year until 2026 when the funds have to be fully expended. So on the next slide, and through this presentation, I'm just going to go over the big overview of the purpose of the funds, the sort of constraints that the state gave us in spending the funds, and then how we hope to spend them. Great, thank you. With the budget passing this summer, the state allocated $3.6 billion in discretionary money in order to improve standards-aligned professional development and instructional materials in many subject areas, including arts and music. Also, professional development on improving school culture, diverse and culturally relevant book collections, operational costs, and COVID personal protective equipment. I think the thing I want to highlight here was the state did not require us to spend it on arts and music despite the title. And that has been a point of advocacy for a lot of groups in terms of the lack of constraints around it. So we're very intentional about making sure we spent the majority of this, this grant on the arts and music programs. The allowable uses here are, I'm sorry for the tiny font. I didn't realize it would read so small. Is to attain professional development or instructional materials on visual and performing arts, world languages, mathematics, science, including environmental literacy, ELA, including early literacy, ethnic studies, fiscal literacy, computer literacy, media literacy, history of social sciences, so very broad. Also, professional development, again, diverse and relevant book collections, operational costs, and COVID PPEs. The only requirements the state has for us is on the right side there, which is before we spend the funds, we have to have it discussed and approved by the board, which is what we're doing tonight. There's no deadline for the adoption. There's in fact no template. We're very excited to be able to provide a template, and hopefully it reads clearly for everyone this evening. Let's turn to the template itself. I think it's in front of you. So the primary buckets of funds, so almost a quarter of the funds are going to be spent in the category of PD and instructional materials. And then within that category, the majority of funds, a little over $1 million, is going to be going to visual and performing arts. The ELA materials for the following year would be spent towards exploring a review, evaluation, purchase of new elementary literacy curriculum, history, social science materials, which we've already adopted, and the computer literacy materials to support our STAR lab. Just to say that we got a lot of input from the community through this process, and which included NUMA, our school leaders, as well as Mr. Ewing weighed in, and I know the marching band at the high school also weighed in. And I know that you did a lot of more engagements, Dr. Triplett, so I just wanted to acknowledge that this was developed with conversation with the community. So, any questions about the proposal?
Any questions, Student Board Member Torres?
Do we have like a breakdown of how much money is to go into each campus?
So we have a breakdown. Let's see. So hold on, let me just navigate here. There's a component that's going to an elementary and a high school. I didn't put a numeric value in the proposal itself. Did you want to speak to that? I'm happy to continue though.
Right now, in the plan, the allocation to the sites, just for discretionary purposes for arts and music, would be about $100 per student.
There's additional that goes to schools, which would be for a mural project, and then the remaining funds primarily focus on the high school arts and music.
Member Zhang?
So for the year 24 to 25 and 25 to 26, I see there's no appropriation. So can you explain that?
A lot of the funds are going towards for the refurbishment. We expect to expend that through contracts that we develop within this year. So, assuming that the contracts are approved, then that money is encumbered. So it may actually get spent over the years, but it would probably most likely be encumbered by the end of this year. So I think that also goes for the purchase of most materials. Most of these items are material purchases, which is why they're not sort of lingering throughout. We want to get the materials now in the hands of kids and teachers so they can have the benefits.
So for the accounting purpose, these expenditure will be very, very front loaded to the current fiscal year, right? Is that, even though, they will probably gradually be spent in the next 4 years, but I guess from the bookkeeping purpose, these are front loaded on this year's budget, right?
We are actually planning to spend most of it this year. And if it's something that just gets encumbered and rolled over, yes, but the majority of the funds we are planning to spend this year.
Any other questions or comments, Member Zhang?
I guess just that one remaining question, because it looks like the program lasts till 2025 or 2026, but most of the money will be spent this year. So the 2024 to 2025 and 2025 to 2026, where there's no appropriation, are they just for bookkeeping purpose? That we think it will be, they will gradually see the impact of spending this year.
Yes, there's no requirement to spend every year through 25-26. If we spend it in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, that's at the discretion of the district. On a side note, if you recall, there was a Proposition 28 that was in the ballot. It's about arts and music, and that passed. That's going to be an ongoing funding for school districts. I believe it's $1 billion statewide that will be allocated to all the schools for arts and music.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, based on that knowledge, what we thought was it makes more sense to spend one-time funds on materials, supplies, equipment, facilities, knowing that we could actually utilize those other funds that are going to be ongoing for staffing. And it really wouldn't make a lot of sense to spend the one-time funds on staffing. But that is part of the intention for the ongoing funds, is how do we increase the staffing that is supporting arts and music in our schools. More to come on that probably later this year or next year.
Thank you, Superintendent Triplett. Member Hill?
Yes, thank you. And then, yeah, just to clarify, so the ballot initiative that just passed, that's not what this is?
No.
Okay. So, yeah, so to your point that you raised earlier, Ms. Kearns, you know, that it sounds like the restrictions around this funding are loose, and I'm a really big supporter of arts and music, and I get a little frustrated when, I mean, because that's the area which is oftentimes shortchanged, and just to tell a quick little story. I was talking with Member Grindal a while ago. I was mentioning, or we were talking about the whole Bay Bridge toll issue, and how a number of years ago we had all voted for an increase in the tolls, and the promise was that we were going to build this Trans-Bay corridor, and that we were going to have train service over to Silicon Valley. And then when I was asking Member Grindal, because he's much more knowledgeable about this than I am, I said, well, whatever happened to that? And he said, well, the language didn't say will. I don't remember exactly what your term was, but it may be used for these purposes. And so, you know, I guess the only concern I have here is that, a fairly substantial chunk of our ask here, about 30%, so under the operational costs and the COVID costs, those don't really have anything to do with arts. And so I'm wondering if we can come up with additional arts and music requirements, or if not, because I'm imagining that the money's not unlimited, that we leave that for other schools and other students who might want to be accessing this. Because, again, if you look at the description that's under operational costs and COVID costs, it really doesn't have anything to do with arts and music.
Yes. Correct.
If I could jump in for a second. Yeah, so we could go into the rationale for the other areas. I think a perfect example is if you look in the operational costs, what we've identified as really important costs is for assessment and improvement to the wireless internet access. So we just heard the board, and I think we all agree on the criticalness of addressing the wireless Wi-Fi problem. And so likewise, all of the things on here are really, really significant priorities. However, we did want to really emphasize and first and foremost the visual and performing arts.
Thank you, Superintendent Triplett. Any other comments, Member Hill? Member Grindal?
Thank you for the excellent presentation, and thanks, staff, for the prioritization of the arts in this. I share Member Hill's and other board members' concerns about how loose the language ended up. I watched this legislation as it was being done, and this ability to spend it on almost anything kind of came in late, and I was a little disappointed. And I'm glad to see that our district has made it a priority to focus on some real one-time needs with this one-time money. That's when you get a grant fund, you don't want to build something that's going to take ongoing revenue to maintain without identifying that ongoing revenue. And in the case of the major capital improvements, you're probably going to reduce your ongoing maintenance costs dramatically. So that actually puts money back in our pocket to be used for other educational sources. So I just want to applaud that despite the flexibility that was offered, the bulk of the the bulk of these funds are being spent on arts that are put forward. I also just want to publicly thank Assembly Member Lee and Senator Wachowski for supporting this budget and these actions. We really need to thank our state legislatures for prioritizing this. So again, I just want to say this is very important to be prioritizing the arts. Arts are a critical part. And when I say arts, I'm including music in that category, by the way. And it's a critical part of the educational environment. And as indicated by other board members, it's the first thing that ends up on the chopping block, and it's problematic. So I'm glad to see that the legislature put the language in it, even though they allowed a sort of a trap door. But to have this be directed that way, and for the voters of the state to have approved this ongoing funding is very exciting. It's going to help make our schools world class, as we've talked about a few times tonight. So those weren't questions; those were just comments. So thank you.
One more question.
Member Hill?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just one more question, because in the first part, which is really more arts and music oriented, so you do hit on in the second item, so 6 through 12 school arts and music, so substantial upgrades to the Newark Memorial High School Theater, including lighting, sound, scene shop, and stage flooring. So we heard about that extensively this evening, and it sounds like it's in real need. The question I have is $1 million going to be enough for all this? Because a lot of times those things are expensive, and are we limited in how much money we can ask for?
Well, we're limited in the amount of money we've been allocated.
Okay. Well, so could we prioritize then? I mean, so for example, like we've got COVID costs here, which, again, hopefully we're starting to ramp down on. I mean, can we prioritize and say that really the funding that for that first section for the true arts and music category, that really takes precedence, and that we're gonna, if we need to pull more from operational or COVID, we'll do that to support these types of upgrades.
So in terms of the upgrades for the theater, $1 million is probably not enough. So we really have to prioritize what we can upgrade with this funding. We got $3 million total for different areas. And what we're going to have to do, that's why we listed some of the items here that were brought up that were of the highest need, with the lighting and the floor. It's definitely not enough, but hopefully it will be the beginning of upgrades, for the theater, total upgrades.
Any other comments, Member Hill? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Kearns, for the presentation, and I'm excited to get this approved. And so with that, I'm going to keep it short because I agree with all the other comments that the other board members have made. So I'm going to make a motion to approve this item. May I get a second, please?
Very happy to second that motion.
Thank you. Motion made by myself and seconded by Member Grandel. Student board member, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Board members, please vote on board docs. Thank you.
Four yes?
Yay.
Yay. Thank you, Ms. Karen.
Thank you. All right. On to we're heading backwards now to item 15.1, Resolution 2022.23.14. Dr. Triplett.
Thank you, President Nguyen. So this, and thank you, students and staff, for being here for that. Really appreciate you. This item is with regard to another funding program. I guess you could call it a grant or maybe a funding program that addresses some of the needs that came up during the pandemic, particularly with regard to HVAC systems and other air filtration. So through the hard work and diligence of the business office, it became aware of this opportunity It's something that we had to apply for, and we're really delighted to share tonight that we got awarded these dollars. So I'll have Ms. Dela Cruz explain more, but essentially we are going to be able to utilize these dollars to pay for some of the improvements that we had the foresight to do in this past 2 years with regard to HVAC. And it's these kind of situations that then frees up dollars to possibly be spent on other things, such as improving the arts and theater and music facilities. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Dela Cruz to explain more.
Yeah, so through this program, we had the opportunity to apply to get some funding for our HVAC system. And what this funding will provide is assessments and filters and also some repairs to our HVAC units. We'll be able to do or recoup some of the expenditures that we've already made, especially with regards to some of the assessments that we've done already. And we have the preliminary notice of award, and part of the process is for us to pass this resolution so that we can receive the funding. It's a total of $1,132,596, and it's for all our sites.
Any questions? Student Board Member Torres? Member Zhang? Member Hill? Member Grandal?
I just wanted to thank staff for going after these funds, and it's my understanding there was a fair amount of persuasion required. So I want to thank Ms. Dela Cruz, particularly for fighting for our district and bringing these funds in. So thank you very much.
Yes, I echo the same sentiments as Member Grandal. Thank you so much for being diligent and when you see these kinds of programs come up that you do and have staff go after these one-time funds so that we can do some continued maintenance on facilities. So thank you so much. So with that, may I get a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Member Grandal, seconded by Member Zhang. Student Board Member, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Four yeas.
Thank you. Okay, on to item 15.3, board meeting schedule change. Dr. Triplett.
Thank you, President Nguyen. So we have a couple suggested changes. When the initial board calendar for this year was created and approved by the board, at that point there were some things that had not yet been scheduled, including the CSBA annual conference, which is coming up on December 1st. And so, actually, December 1st. So when we've been made aware, then we're bringing forward this to the board to recommend that we reschedule the December 1st board meeting in order to enable the board members to attend, who wish to attend the CSBA conference, and move the board meeting to December 5th. Likewise, there is a meeting that was scheduled on January 5th, which happens to be during winter break, and at the time we weren't aware of that at the time that these board meetings were originally scheduled. So we're recommending that that meeting be canceled and that we would have one meeting in January.
Any comments or questions, Student Board Member Torres? Member Zhang? Member Hill?
So board, in December of 2021, we had a regularly scheduled board meeting on December 2nd that was part of an official schedule we approved on January 7th, 2021. On November 22nd, 2021, Superintendent Triplett made a request that we cancel this meeting so that the board could attend a California School Board Association conference in San Diego. and this request was being made 10 days before the event. At the time, I protested this change on the grounds that when we, the board, make commitments, they should mean something, and we shouldn't be changing important dates due to poor planning on our part. Fast forwarding to April 7th of this year, Superintendent Triplett brought a new request to reschedule our June 2nd meeting we, the board, had already committed to on our official board calendar. This change was being requested because Newark Memorial High School had unilaterally decided to move their graduation date from Saturday to Thursday and hadn't consulted the board on this change. Again, I protested this recommended change, noting that it was a result of poor planning on the part of superintendent and staff, and seemed to be part of an emerging and unprofessional pattern. I voted yes to approve this change, but I also asked for a commitment to improve. Right after we approved this rescheduling of the June 2nd meeting, Dr. Triplett and staff brought forward an agenda item to approve the board calendar for the 2022-2023 school year. I asked the superintendent and staff to confirm that they had fully vetted this new proposal and that there wouldn't be any future conflicts, including with the future CSBA conference. Ms. Gutierrez then interjected that the annual CSBA conference hadn't been scheduled yet, despite that this was 10 months out, and it seems that based on what CSBA is currently advertising on their website, they already have annual conference dates scheduled for 2023, 2024, and 2025. Superintendent Triplett then offered that while unexpected things happen in life, he and his staff would do everything they could to stick to the schedule. Unfortunately, however, now here we are again talking about canceling our first meeting in December with only 2 weeks prior notice. And again, for the exact same reason we canceled last year's meeting, a CSBA conference that should not have been an unexpected event. And in this same agenda item, we are also being asked to reschedule our January 5th meeting because it falls during the district's winter break, a break that was scheduled on the district's 2022-2023 calendar approved on April 7th, 2022. As I feared back in April, a pattern seems to be emerging in terms of failing to keep our commitments. It's my understanding that in addition to these board meetings reschedules, we have also had city council liaison subcommittee meetings canceled 3 out of 7 times just this year. This is unprofessional and it reflects poorly on the district and the board. A reschedule of the December meeting might be warranted if this were an emergency situation, but attending a conference does not constitute an emergency. Furthermore, this conference does not involve any formal board training. Instead, we are reprioritizing our board calendar to accommodate what is really more of a social and networking function down in San Diego. This does not send a good signal to the teachers in our district who are already underwater and are being asked to work overtime to cover the gaps. And it doesn't show respect for those who have already planned out their work and their calendars and are now being asked to rearrange their schedules due to a lack of foresight on our part. I believe we should authorize travel and attendance to this upcoming conference for our newly elected members who will benefit from this kind of welcome. But for the reasons just stated, I would like to motion that we cancel the January 5th meeting since it is during winter break, but otherwise keep to our original schedule and remain at the helm on December 1st. We have work we need to do and time is of the essence. Thank you for entertaining my motion.
So is the CSBA conference really just a networking event, or it still has trainings?
There's training.
Because if it doesn't have trainings, I would even argue even the newly elected board member probably don't need to go if it's just purely networking.
No, it's not purely networking. I'd like to clarify, have you attended one of those, Member Hill? I have not seen you volunteer to attend any of them, so therefore you do not know. And yes, there are training, and I do highly recommend our new elected board members to attend, and there is just not purely networking.
I'd like to clarify because I did go out and look at this year's calendar for CSBA for the event. So there are certain select trainings. So there's new board member training, there's student member training, but there are not other trainings for the board. There are breakout sessions on various topics, But again, those are not trainings. And if you look at the schedule, they talk explicitly about a big part of it is networking. They've got like vendor booths and this kind of stuff. And so again, it's a nice to have, but it's something that if we wanted to do, we should have planned it a long time ago. We shouldn't be trying to rearrange our schedule at the last minute.
Can I say something? So during the summer, I actually had the opportunity to go to one of the trainings, and I know like it may sound like it wasn't a training, but it was really helpful. They gave you a lot of helpful packets that I still have in my house that I looked through briefly, describing me the rules and what's my role, and they went through slides. And I know we had some breakout sessions too, but they were led by CSBA leaders who are there to help us. And so I would these trainings were really useful, and so I don't think it's really fair to just dismiss them that easily.
Thank you so much, Student Board Member Torres. I couldn't have said that much better myself. Thank you. Member Grindel?
Yes, for the second Member Torres's comments, I have attended the training, and it was a substantial, long days of training under various subjects, even if the title wasn't new board member training or incoming president training. All of the sessions were very dense with information, and members could, if they were focused on what was happening in the state legislature, there's training and information about that. If you're interested in building employee housing, building teacher housing on sites, there was a whole session about that, which was very dense with information. So to characterize this as a primarily networking event from someone who didn't attend the session is really inappropriate. However, we need a unanimous vote on these items. Am I correct? We only need a majority. Okay, so for point of order, Member Hills made a motion. You're going to need to ask for a second.
Thank you, Member Grindel. May I get a second for Member Hill's motion? If not, the motion will die.
Can I make a motion to approve the recommendation?
Yes, motion made by Member Grindel. May I get a second, please?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Member Zhang. Student Board Member, how do you vote?
Yes.
All other board members, please vote on board docs. Thank you.
Three yeas, 1 no for Member Hill.
Thank you. Okay, on to consent agenda items that were pulled. We will start with the personnel item 11.3. Member Hill?
Yes, thank you. So, there were, in public comments, there were questions about some of the personnel on here who supposedly are being used as teachers to coordinate either Apex or Edgenuity, et cetera. And the requirement, right, that exists is that they have to be credentialed in the subject that they are administering in terms of these online modules and programs. And so there was a statement made that they're not properly credentialed, and I'd just like to get clarification from staff on what the situation is.
I believe Ms. Ingham Waters could clarify.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. We do have a number of employees for the after-school additional hourly work. As our public commenter stated, they are credentialed. One in particular has a pupil services credential. But what you can't see on CTC is that the candidate has already applied for her teaching credential with the state, and she is awaiting the posting of that on CTC. Once it's posted, it will be backdated to the application and approval date.
And just to clarify, right, because it's not just having a credential, it's having a credential in the area that you're administering the.
That's correct. Right, Single subject Spanish.
Okay, so
or foreign language.
She is, so she's she's applied for a preliminary credential?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. For the electives, any fully credentialed with a teaching credential can take the electives course.
Thank you.
Are you, I don't think that's correct.
It is.
So, I mean, because I have two credentials, right? I have a social studies, right, credential, and I also have a CTE business credential. And the state is very, very particular about, we're not allowed to be teaching CTE courses that we're not credentialed in. So, for example, just because I have a CTE credential, that doesn't mean I can't teach. I can teach woodshop, right? Or I can teach computer programming. I can only teach in the business pathway. So I'm not sure that statement is correct.
I'm happy to do some more research and report back on that.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Ms. Ingham Waters. With that, may I get a motion to approve the personnel report?
So move.
Thank you, Member Zhang. Motion made by Member Zhang. May I get a second, please?
I'll second.
Seconded by Member Grindel. Student board member does not vote on personnel action on the PAL report. Thank you for the clarification.
4 yeas.
Okay, on to item 12.3, Member Hill.
Yeah, so, I mean, I can make it quick because 12.3 is the same as all the other ones. So they're all basically policy updates. And as was expressed in our last board meeting during public comment, there were concerns expressed, which I share, which is that I don't think that just going and pushing through a whole backlog of updates is the proper process that we should go through, because again, these are policies that are theoretically defining who we are as a district, and they really deserve some review and discussion. And just putting them, 72 hours before a meeting on consent calendar, I don't think it gives we, the board, enough time to really look at these carefully and evaluate them. And I also don't think that it allows the public to have an opportunity to evaluate and also to hear our comments and our discussion. And so I really think that we kind of need to slow this process down and give an opportunity where, we do have a true first reading of these and have an opportunity to look at them and consider them, and for the public to consider them, and then be brought back in a second meeting for ratification. And I would say we need that. And then the other thing that was noted, and I discovered this myself, is that we're not really easily able to see the change in the language. And so this is problematic, where I think that we want to be able to see what was the original version of the policy or the bylaw, and then what is CSBA recommending, and be able to see their changes in different font or different color, and then to be able to see any changes that we ourselves are putting in. And so I don't think we have enough transparency around this. So the request that I have for this item, as well as the other ones, is that we put these on hold and that we revisit this process at a subsequent board meeting, so that we can provide more time to consider these and get public input on them. So those are my comments.
Member Grindel.
Yes, well, I did have the opportunity to review this information. I appreciate it being posted. It's my understanding that, and please confirm this, if I could maybe just make as a form of question, all of these updates are consistent with CSBA policy procedures, and that we've essentially fallen over the years. We've fallen behind that CSBA. We're not making any changes that are not recommended by CSBA.
Yeah, thank you, Member Grindel. So I can just explain a little bit, and then if other staff want to chime in, this has definitely been a group effort on the part of those that you see before you, as well as the teams of the departments. We have before us, I think I mentioned this in the fall, but a significant task to try to update our board policies. For whatever reason, this process had fallen to the wayside, and so we are way behind in terms of updating our policies. And it might be because of the challenge of bringing these forth to the board in the past was extremely laborious with redlining, et cetera. Fortunately, CSBA has continued to improve their process. And so they no longer recommend a redlining process or anything like that. Instead, they've set it up as you see it here, which is really thoughtfully providing an analysis and notes for each revision that they're suggesting. In the case, in our situation, unfortunately, since there's been such a delay in updating policies, some of these policies, in order to even try to redline them, would be redlining the entire policy because they've changed so much and so many times between when they were last updated by our district and the current updates. So I do want to emphasize that as is articulated in the background for each one of these policy update recommendations, that this is intended to be a first read, which is possible within consent. And then if the district, or sorry, if the board feels it appropriate, any of these could be brought back for a second reading if that's what the board wishes. Staff, would you like to add anything?
If I may, Dr. Triplett, I would like to add that within the background of each agenda item, we also do explain and have the date of when the last revisions were made by CSBA. And this is language from CSBA, so this is not language that staff is making. So within every agenda item, it says the date of when the revisions were made. And if there were multiple revisions, then each multiple revision and date when it was revised is also included in the background. And this is language that is coming from CSBA explaining why they made those changes. Within the recommended attachment of itself, it also has the blue boxes, which is explaining the change that is happening within that policy. Some of these policies, because they have had multiple revisions, there is no way for us to be able to redline because we wouldn't be able to show how the current policy, our existing policy changed from the recommended policy because of the multiple revisions. And as Dr. Triplett mentioned, there are times when the entire policy, New York's policy, would be crossed out because of so many revisions. If any of these policies are rescinded, for example, there's also an explanation as to the reason why and where the current language exists.
Yes. Wait, I'm sorry. So absolutely, the description that is provided in the staff report is much more useful than a red line would be in this circumstance. You really would end up with just red ink all over everything. So I don't have any question about that at all. In reviewing the comments, and also just the bold statement, the bald statement that we are becoming consistent with the state of the art with what the CSBA is recommending. We're not creating something out of whole cloth, and that's why I'm in support of moving forward like this.
Thank you. Member Hill?
So I just have a clarifying question. So we've been pushing through a number of these policy changes, updates over the past couple of months. And so I just would like clarity. So are we saying that none of the policy changes that we've put through, that our staff has modified any of the language, that the only modifications to the language have come from CSBA? So is that correct?
So there are certain policy recommendations that are listed by CSBA as optional, sometimes because it doesn't match with what is the function of our district. I'm forgetting, but there's an example on this list here where I believe there was an option for a district that fit a certain category, and we just don't fit that category. So in those cases, we have removed the optional things that aren't relevant or don't fit to our district. So there is some changes in some of them, all of them based on CSBA recommendations and what is optional to change or what is not.
And again, just to clarify, well, so for the areas where we're deleting things, how can we tell that?
If we're removing a policy, it's usually in the background because it's incorporated in another policy. That's how outdated we are. Some of our policies have already been incorporated in a new policy. Therefore, we may have a policy that's like a duplicate or it's incorporated in a newer policy. And we incorporate that in our explanation in the background.
Okay, and so those are where we're folding something in. But what we're saying, what I'm hearing us say, is that we aren't inserting any additional language, that the only new language is coming from CSBA. Is that correct?
Well, there are some policies that are unique to the district. Is that what you're referring to, or?
All I'm saying is that if we're putting in new policies and we're putting in language that isn't coming from CSBA, so, I mean, are we doing that? And if so, how does the board know or the public know what those changes are?
It's in the background.
Do we identify that where we've said we're actually changing something specifically, so our district is specifically making a change here that's independent of CSBA guidance?
If I may, currently, the language that we use is recommended, so we're not using language that is not recommended by CSBA, if that's what you're asking.
And again, like I said, there are things on the recommendations that the CSBA lists as optional. And so there are situations where we have seen that and recognize that the optional section doesn't match with our district. And so therefore we have removed some of the optional parts or adjusted them to fit what does match with our district.
We're not inserting new language.
Non-CSBA language.
And I don't know of any situation where we have, but Ms. Ingham-Waters, you want?
This process has been super beneficial for me in my role to really go through every single policy. I will say on the proposed policies, you'll see these light blue boxes, kind of like your Cliff Notes, if you will. And you'll notice, especially in the 4000s, which is the personnel, it'll say the district may expand this list as it relates to current bargaining agreements. So that's where I will go in and look at our CBAs with our teachers and our classified and add the appropriate language that matches our current bargaining agreement. So in that instance, yes, because we're guided to refer to our current CBA.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a comment. So, I mean, if we approve this tonight, ultimately you still have a backup option, right? Because we got 2 newly elected board members. If they come on board in January and they feel strongly about going through every single policy line by line, they got 2 votes plus member who you got 3 votes, which is a majority vote. You can call for a special study session where you spend hours and hours sitting there and going through every single line. So that can be a backup option, right? If the 2 newly elected board members think we need to redo this line by line. So with that, I'm ready to make the motion to approve 12.3 all the way to 12.13.
Thank you.
I'm ready to second that.
Motion made by Member Zhang, seconded by Member Grandel. I didn't need to comment. Thank you.
Sorry, I apologize.
It's okay.
Student member can vote, correct?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Apologies, I was waiting for.
And just give me a minute.
Um,
I'm adjusting the motion.
Okay, Student Board Member, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez.
Three yeas, one no for Member Hill.
All right, on to item 17.1, Board of Education recognitions and announcements. Student Board Member Torres.
Okay, so I got two announcements. So the first one is to update all of you on the recycling program at the high school. So far the group has put up advertisements across campus about the recycling program to allow students to get involved with the program. After getting the supplies earlier this month, they have tried to start the program but realized that many students just don't know how to properly recycle. They are currently working to create a PSA video and infographics to educate people on how to recycle that will be shared with the students and staff. They are super excited to get the program started after we get back from break and start initiating a clean out of the bins on Friday, December 2nd with the volunteers of the Environment Club. And the second update, so at our school, we have two students, Julian Sanchez and Shane Tavares, who have created a podcast called the Cougar Paw Cast. They really like that name. They made it to spread awareness to the students and the community about the events and activities happening at Newark Memorial. They have also worked tirelessly selling ice cream and hot chocolate at lunch to afford the equipment. They are also so excited because the first episode of their bi-weekly podcast will drop tomorrow on Apple Music Podcasts and Spotify. I hope all of you will tune in. Thank you.
That's so cool. Thank you, Student Board Member Torres. Member Zhang?
So during my vacation, I guess California's Education Department released comprehensive official data from last year's dashboard when it comes to the academic performance of English language arts and math. While Newark Unified School District is still trailing in math, in English language arts compared to New Haven District, our math performance for the first time, probably first time ever in history, has surpassed that of New Haven Unified District. And this is a significant historic milestone. I want to congratulate all the parents that set up high expectations for the children, as well as the dedicated teachers, staff, administrators, and district leadership who make student success the number one priority in the past year. Job well done, and I look forward to the day where we surpass New Haven in both math and English.
Thank you, Member Zhang. Member Hill?
Yes, I just want to acknowledge the teachers in our district. I know that we've had teachers come in person here, and also I've been getting, I think we all have been getting emails from teachers where, they're struggling right now. So I think that we're facing the whole COVID, pandemic learning loss issue, and teachers are working hard at addressing that. And then I know, given some of our staffing issues, that they've been having to give up their preps and also, having to work longer hours. And so I just want to acknowledge that we hear you, and we need to try to figure out how we can provide additional support to help you. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Hill. Member Grindal?
I want to second Member Hill's comments. That teachers and all of our staff are working very hard to educate our children, and they're very much appreciated in all that you're doing. Lastly, I want to say Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, because we won't meet again until after that break. So that's it.
Same. I do echo the same sentiments as my fellow board members, especially acknowledging, like Member Hill said, where our teachers have been working really hard and facing some extreme difficulties and challenges because of staffing issues, and yes, and that also overflows to all of our other areas in the district office, and also our CSEA members and classified classified positions as well. So thank you for your continued support and hard work. And also wanted to really thank all the parents and all of everyone who has been participating in the facilities roundtables, I guess, and coming out and really expressing interest in prioritizing some much-needed facility changes for the high school and junior high. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And lastly, I just wanted to tell our students to continue to, push on and do a great job in school. There's so many of our student athletes that did extremely well this last quarter, and just really wanted to appreciate them and their hard work in school, and not only in the classroom, but also on the sports field and competition as well.
I actually missed one thing. November 30th, the UC application deadline. I wish everyone good luck on your UC application.
Thank you. Especially our student board member, correct? Yes. On to item 17.2, Board of Education Committee reports. Do we have any report out of Mission ROP, Member Grindel?
Only that the November meeting was canceled, but they'll go forward with the December meeting. I'll be there.
Okay, thank you. Member Zhang, anything on SELPA?
So SELPA had a meeting 2 days ago. It was year-end, like budget approval and budget commitments and other bookkeeping votes. And the other thing is we're going to have a new director for SELPA. So
we do?
We will have a new director. I think the current director of SELPA is leaving her post.
Oh, great, thank you. Anything from EBIC, Member Hill?
No updates.
Thank you. Anything from the Audit Committee?
No
Member Hill?
updates.
Thank you. There are no updates for the Bond and Parcel Tax Committee, and any updates from the Liaison Committee, Member Grindel?
Nothing. Nothing to report.
Okay, great. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to item 17.3, Board of Education requests. Student Board Member Torres, do you have any requests in this?
Just for everyone to enjoy their Thanksgiving break. And have some good feast.
Thank you. Board Member Zhang?
So we got the email from the two newly elected board members asking to go to the training for the CSB. Are they on their way to go, or because the result will be certified probably at the end of this month? So what is the status? Because we got multiple requests from the two newly elected board members.
Yes, we've been in communication with both of the board member elects, and it's our understanding that they're intending to go to the CSBA conference.
Are we paying them upfront, or we're reimbursing them?
Yeah, yes, we are paying.
Okay.
Yeah, with just like for everybody, I believe the airfare is everyone pays up front. Is that right, Ms. Gutierrez, and then is reimbursed? But that's the same for everyone, regardless of election status.
Thank you. Member Hill?
I have one request. So based on the presentation that we received regarding Wi-Fi, it sounds like we're in agreement that we are facing an issue, and that the long-term issue or the long-term solution is maybe the best, but it's going to take time and obviously significant money, which we may not have in the short term. So we have to entertain interim solutions. And it seemed like we were coalescing around the idea of getting our IT staff to establish a policy where either we set up a separate network that is dedicated and prioritized to school equipment, so both staff and teacher computers, as well as school-issued Chromebooks, and that we prioritize bandwidth for those, and either deprioritize or not offer bandwidth for personal devices until we can make sure that we have sufficient bandwidth. So my request is that we ask IT to make, or we ask staff and IT to make that change to help address the issue.
So should we bring this back for a regular agenda for a board vote, right? I think that should be the appropriate next step, right? Rather than make a decision right now.
Yeah. I think yes, I think we should agendize it.
Yeah,
Sure,
we
so
should
let's
agenda, and then
agendize it.
and board take a formal vote. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can ask a clarifying question, just for, of staff, so, if there's a look at this, can you bring back any policy changes that the board would need to make in regards to that? I think that's what we're talking about. Is that accurate? Yes.
Yes.
Possibly, obviously, if there's a fiscal impact, we'll need to approve. If even the medium term solution has fiscal impact, we'll need to, I think, approve to appropriate the fund.
Just so that I'm clear, and is this already been agreed upon that we're bringing this back? Then I just want to make sure I'm clear on the task.
Well, I see a consensus that they want to report, we want to report on what policy changes we need to make
Okay.
to improve the situation.
Okay.
No, I guess
clarify.
we're going to bring it back for discussion and action at that point. I think that's
Right, and that it sounded like we were leaning towards, one solution, which is that we prioritize bandwidth for school computer resources and potentially either deprioritize or possibly restrict personal access from personal devices until we can get more bandwidth.
Well, I mean,
So would the board like us to bring back an analysis and sort of a proposal about sort of the pros and cons and what would be the implications of such a change? Is that what I'm hearing?
yes, I think that would be best because there are some implications because, like the consultant had mentioned, because of the outdated system, they're not going to be able to identify specifically which one is a personal device versus which one is an actual device. So yes, if we reset the whole network and only allow, new privileges to access, then that could possibly happen, but let staff determine that.
Sure, so I don't have a problem with, having them come back and look at different options. But the one thing I did recall that Mr. Rose said was that they can identify based on SSID. And so they can segregate based on SSID.
Yes, but they have to do some other extensive, there's another part to it. Okay, thank you. Great. Member Grindel, do you have any requests?
No requests.
I don't have any requests other than everyone really please take this opportunity and time to really enjoy your families. Just really, literally downtime means downtime. No answering work stuff, unless it's an emergency, of course. But I really do want all of us to be able to recharge and come back energized and, focused and have clarity. So for our staff and for all of our teachers and our students and their families, I'm happy. The request is to have a wonderful Thanksgiving break. Thank you. With that, I would like to. Yeah, no, I'm not adjourning the meeting yet. With that, I would like to continue with 18.1 superintendent concluding comments, updates, and future agenda items. Thank you. Superintendent Triplett.
Thank you, President Nguyen. So just want to appreciate everybody for this meeting and all of the hard work. And a couple things. One is really excited by the student efforts around recycling. And I think it is not just a high school issue. Today I was at junior high and took the time to work with the custodians there picking up trash. And I think that it gave me a chance to really reflect on the fact that cleanliness of our schools is all of our responsibility. And recycling is a part of that. But this is really, if we're gonna have a cleaner, healthier environment, it takes all of us, and none of us are above picking up trash, keeping things clean, putting things where they're supposed to be. So I did want to really deeply appreciate the custodians for all of their work, and I want to challenge all of us, and I think in the upcoming months, I really want to challenge us as a district of how we are taking ownership of clean schools, and how are we together ensuring that our schools are clean, because it's not just the custodian's duty. I also want to really appreciate everyone on the board, as well as staff, families, who are choosing grace, empathy, and collaboration in place of public shaming and blame. And I think this work is incredibly hard for all of us, whether you're sitting in a board seat, whether you're a student in a classroom, whether you're a teacher or a principal, whether you're a parent. It's really hard. And the only way we're going to move forward is if we are having grace with each other, if we have empathy, and if we are collaborating and working together. If we are continuing to try to publicly shame others, blame, without thinking about any sort of empathy for other individuals, we will fail. And so I just want to appreciate those who have that strength and have that social-emotional competency to be holding that level of grace, empathy, and collaboration. And with that, I wish you all a good evening, good night, and a very happy break.
Thank you. With that, may I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? Student Board Member Torres.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second that.
Thank you, Student Board Member Torres. May I get a second, please?
Second that.
Seconded by Member Zhang. Student Board Member, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
4 yeas.
Motion, unanimous motion to adjourn, meeting adjourned at 9:21 p.m. Thank you, everyone.